Hello folks, welcome to the Edupedia world and I am Abhinay Gupta. Today again we'll continue with the topic, the appointment and qualification of directors. Right? In the preceding lecture we have been through one of the most typical topic of the chapter, which is section 163, the proportional representation. Right? I hope that was very clear with you, the various methods, the two methods that we have discussed, the STV and the cumulative voting method. Right, and the need for proportional representation. We have also seen the various provisions relating to the appointment of a woman director and a resident director. Right. Now today we'll move on to the other type of director, to one other type of director, that is the independent director. Right, and that is also a very important topic from your examination point of view as well, and this is an important concept, an important provision as per the Companies Act 2013, right? And even this is contained under section 149 of the Companies Act 2013. Now we'll deal with the independent director. So first of all, we need to understand who is an independent director. So if we go ahead with the mere definition in the layman's term, so an independent director would be a director who is independent. Now what does independence mean in this scenario? Right? In this scenario, independence would mean that the director is independent to exercise its decisions. Right? That its decision is not bound by any contract or agreement, right? Or any profit. It is not biased in any way. Right? It does not impact, it does not hit the interest of the director in any way. That is the meaning of independence over here in this scenario. Right? So the need for an independence director was actually keeping in mind the corporate governance. Right? You don't have such specific provision that would mandate the appointment of an independent director in the old Companies Act, the Companies Act 1956. But yeah, this provision was specifically inserted in Companies Act 2013. Right? Because that was a basic requirement of the section 49 of the listing agreement also. Sorry, not the section, the clause 49 of the listing agreement. Even that very specifically demands an appointment of an independent director into the board so as to enhance the corporate governance, so as to keep the transparency, right? So as to protect the interest of minority shareholders at times, right? Because an independent director would always take decision based on the facts, right? Based on the circumstances and what would be correct, right? The decision would not be biased. So this is what an independent director would mean in its layman term. But if we go by the technicalities now, so the meaning of independent director is picked up from clause 49 of the listing agreement, according to which any director, right, who does not have any material pecuniary relationship or transaction with the company. Now pecuniary relationship means a relationship which is financial. Right? So that means that the director receives only its remuneration. There is no other office of profit for the director. There is no other mode of income. There is no other financial involvement of the director with the company. Right? Neither does the director have any transaction with the company, its promoters, its senior management, holding company or subsidiary, associate or anybody. Right? That would demand its independence actually, because it has no relation with any body, any person, any individual, nor does it have any pecuniary relationship with the company instead. And further also that this person should not be related to the promoters of the company or any person occupying the management position actually. And also that this person should not have been an executive for the company in the preceding 3 financial years also. Right? So this is the requirement of independence. No pecuniary relationship, no transaction, and no relationship with the promoter, with the key managerial person, right? No, should not be an executive of the company for the previous 3 financial years. And apart from this, there is one more important aspect, that he should not be holding more than 2% of the voting share of the company, right? So that is what we mean by an independent director. And the provisions relating to the independent director, to the appointment of an independent director into the board, is inserted by the Companies Act 2013, right? After it had been provided in clause 49 of the listing agreement. And that is basically done to enhance the corporate governance, to protect the interest of the minority. right, and to initiate the fair dealing. Right, there was no such provision contained in the Companies Act 1956. No initiative had been taken then. Right. So I hope now it is clear with you who an independent director is. And so we have also understood when do we need to appoint an independent director, and now what are the conditions to be fulfilled to become an independent director. There are 6 basic conditions that has been defined as per section 149 that has to be fulfilled to become an independent director. Right. So far we had talked in layman term and we have talked about the provisions in general. But now we'll go ahead to understand the 6 basic conditions that would that if qualified will consider that yes, the person is independent and he can be elected into the board as an independent director. Right. So there are 6 conditions that need to be fulfilled, and we'll see those conditions further. But before that, before moving ahead to the 6 conditions, what we need to basically understand is the other provisions related to the independent director. Right. How many directors are to be elected, what are the procedures and all. Right. The person being independent or not is a condition that we'll be checking at the end of this section, at the end of after completing all the other provisions of an independent director. So when we talk about the provisions, we deal with provision of section 149 along with rule 4 and rule 5 of the company's appointment and qualification of directors, rule 2014. Right. So we have already seen and understood that the provisions for appointment of an independent director was inserted by Companies Act 2013 for the first time, right? And so as per Companies Act 2013, as per section 149, you will have to appoint at least one third of the total number of directors, right, as independent director into your board. Right, that is a mandate. So if your total number of directors is 9, so one third, that is 3. 3 directors have to be an independent director. Right? Rest can be any director, but 3 have to be independent. Right? Who can actually take care of the corporate governance and the minority. And if there is any fraction, like if you have 10, then one third comes out to be a fraction, that is a little more than 3. So if there is any fraction in this case, that would be rounded off as 1. That means it would be rounded up. So if you have to have 10 directors in your board, then at least 4 have to be independent director. Right? So the provision is very clear with that. So when we talk about hiring one third, appointing one third director as independent director, that doesn't mean that because we know that the minimum number of directors in a public company is 3. That means if one third needs to be independent, we'll have to have one independent director. Right? So that could be a scenario where you could have only one independent director in a company. But then the provision of 149 also says that there has to be a minimum of 2 independent directors in any public company. So if you have 3 directors in total, 2 of them have to be an independent director. And that is as per the rule 4, right, that we have seen, because we are discussing section 149 independent director along with rule 4 and rule 5. Right? And CG also has the power to prescribe the minimum number of directors for any specific class of companies. But can there be a situation where a public company has 3 directors and only one is independent director and still it is running well? Yes, that can be possible, but for that it has to meet certain criteria. For that specific purpose, the paid up share capital of the public company should be less than 10 crores and turnover less than 100 crores, and the aggregate of outstanding loan, debenture and deposit less than 50 crores. Right? Which means if you actually see what the provision of 149 says, is that any public company with a turnover of more than 100 crore, right, with a share capital of more than 10 crores and with outstanding loan, debentures and deposit of more than 50 crore will have to have a minimum of 2 directors. So along with the provision, the rule says that you will have to have a minimum of 2 independent directors. So along with that, you also have laid down a basic parameter. Right? If you cross the parameter, the minimum is applicable to you, but if you still lie below the parameter, that even if you don't have a paid up share capital of 10 crore in your public company, then for you it is an exemption. You can have one independent director, there is no problem with that. And for all this parameter, the relevant date for checking these parameters would be the last date of the preceding financial year or the latest financial statement that you have, right, for the period. So the last date of that period would be considered. And having 1/3 directors as independent director is the minimum requirement. But if the company also has an audit committee, right, and for that it needs more independent directors. So for the purpose of audit committee, if the number of independent directors increases, so that would be the minimum applicable in the company from now onwards. And the cases of vacancies in the office of an independent director would be dealt with similarly as it was dealt with in section 149 when we were talking about the women director. Right? So it has the same provision. If there is a vacancy, the board needs to fill it at its earliest, right? But it should not be later than the date of your next board meeting or 3 months, whichever is later. We have discussed the provision in detail when we were discussing the women director in the previous lecture. And now when we were talking about the criteria of paid-up share capital greater than 10 crores, turnover greater than 100 crores, or deposits, borrowings, debentures greater than 50 crores, right? So once that is applicable, right, you will have to have a minimum of 2 independent directors, right? And once you fall under that category, you will continue with it for 3 consecutive financial years at least. If you keep qualifying it, you continue with it. But if you fall below the criteria, even then you will continue it for 3 financial years. And after that, if you still don't recover, if you still don't cross the boundary, right, then this provision will not be applicable on you, and will again be applicable the day you qualify the limit, right? And if any law for the time being in force asks you to hold independent directors more than the number you are required as per this provision, then that minimum would be applicable in you, right? If there is any law for that is for the time being in force, if that demands more independent directors, it will be enacted that way.
Further, the independent director also needs to give a declaration that he meets the criteria of independence, right, as provided in the section, as provided in the provisions. So when is that declaration supposed to be given? So that declaration will be given once after its appointment, right? So once the independent director is appointed and then there is a board meeting, so in that board meeting it will give a declaration that yes, I am independent and I have fulfilled the criteria, right? And this declaration will always be given in the first board meeting of every year. So with the commencement of new year, in the first board meeting, you will again reconfirm that you fulfill the basic criteria. Next year, you will repeat the same thing, right? And that declaration will also be given when there is any change in the circumstance. So there are 3 basic category of times when you have to give the declaration that you have fulfilled the criteria of independence, right? And the code of conduct of an independent director would be referred to in Schedule 4. Right, so Schedule 4 will have all the basic conduct, the code, right, based on which they have to abide by, that the independent director needs to abide by. The independent director who is appointed into the board of the company will not be entitled to any stock option, right? So the stock option that are basically being given to an employee of the company will not be given to an independent director, because as we have already seen, if he is independent, that means he is not an employee of the company, right? But although they are not entitled for any stock option, they are entitled for other things. Like they are entitled to receive the sitting fees when they sit for any board meeting, right? They are entitled to get the reimbursement for the expenses that they incur to attend that board meeting, right? And an independent director may be paid profit related commission, right? And that may be approved by the members. So if the members don't have a problem with that, if the members approve, then the independent directors would be paid percentage of profit. That would be a profit related commission. Next, the terms of office of an independent director is one thing to keep note of. So an independent director would be appointed into the board of the company for a period of maximum 5 years, which is 5 consecutive years. And once the tenure of 5 years expires, the independent director would be eligible for reappointment, but for that case a special resolution needs to be passed in the meeting of the members, right? So if the members pass a special resolution and want the independent director to continue into the board for a tenure of more 5 years, then they are allowed to do so, right? But that independent director will not be allowed to continue for the 3rd term. So the maximum number of terms that will be allowed to an independent director to continue as an independent director in a company would be 2 terms.
And after completing those 2 tenures, there will be a cooling period of 3 years. So that independent director would not be eligible for reappointment as an independent director for the period of next 3 years. Right? Now when we talk about 2 tenure, like 2 terms actually, so that term, it is not compulsory that the term would be for 5 years. Right? If an independent director is appointed by a company for a period of say 3 years, right? So that 3 years would be 1 term. Right? If it is reappointed for the next 3 years, those 3 years will be the second term. And then after the completion of second term, there will be a rest for 3 years. That will be the cooling period. Right? The director will not be eligible for reappointment for next 3 consecutive years. So in this case, what we understand is it is not always a tenure for 10 years before the cooling period comes. Right? It can be a period of 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 7 years, 8 years, whatever be the situation, depending upon the tenure for which that director is appointed per term. Right? So that is one thing which is very important and that you should understand. Right? When we talk about a period of 5 years, then that is the maximum limit. Right? That is not the compulsory limit. You can appoint an independent director for 1 year, right, and can reappoint it for another 1 year. So in 2 years, the term is over. 2 terms are over. Right? So you need to keep that in mind and understand. That will be very important from examination point of view when you go through the case studies. So there can be a case given as such, and we will think that okay, we had 10 years and here in the question it's 6 years, so it is wrong. And we'll write our answer based on the assumption that 10 years is the period, right, which is not so. So this is one thing which has to be very neatly laid down into your brain, right? And I think it is very clear with you now. And during that 3 year, the cooling period that we're talking about, right, the 3 years when the independent director shall not be appointed, right, in that 3 years, they should not also be associated to the company in any other capacity, either directly or indirectly. So it is not just about the directorship, it is about any capacity. They're not supposed to be associated to the company. And there is another thing which is, I won't say it is to be kept in mind, but that is to be deemed and understood, that if they have a tenure, fixed tenure for their appointment, right, and 2 terms, so they cannot be rotational directors, right? So they are definitely non-rotational directors in the company. And any independent director, right, along with any other non-executive director, shall be held liable only for the act of omission or commission that has occurred in its knowledge, right, attributable through the board processes and with the consent of the director. So if the director is involved in that act, right, if it is knowingly a part of it, right, if the act is in its knowledge and he has consented to do that, only then he'll be liable for any act if that act is wrong, right? Otherwise, if board is going on to do something and the independent director, if he is unaware of it, or does not give his consent for the same, he would not be held liable for that. So that is an exemption given to the independent director. He won't be liable to the punishments, right, that would come over to the other directors, right? So these were the various provisions that we were talking about. And now what we are left with in this section, in section 149 about independent director, is the 6th condition based on which the independence of the director is determined, right? And that will be continuing in the next lecture, right? So I hope this lecture was very clear with you. Let us go through in brief through what we have studied in this lecture. We have understood what an independent director is. We have understood the minimum requirement of 1/3 of the total number of directors to be independent. Right? There are certain criteria. If your turnover is more than 100 crore, if your paid up share capital is more than 10 crore, and if your deposits and debentures are more than 50 crore, then you should have a minimum of 2 independent directors. Right? We have also seen the provision related to the declaration that the independent director needs to give, and what are the time and when do they have to give a declaration. Right? We know that they will have to abide by the code of conduct of schedule 4, right? They will not be given any stock option, but they will be entitled to receive sitting fees, the reimbursements, and also a commission in the profit of the company, right? The tenure would be for maximum 2 terms, and each term would be for maximum period of 5 years. And then there comes a cooling period for 3 years, right? And the second term would fall into the hands of an independent director only when there is an SR passed with the members of the company, right?
They are obviously non-rotational directors, and the liability would be vested upon them only for the acts that are being done in its knowledge and after the consent of the independent director. So these were the provisions that we have seen, and the 6 conditions will be continued in the next lecture. So until then, this is Abhinay Gupta signing.